Imagine if I told you that long before Adam drew his first breath, indeed, even before humanity itself had been conceived, there were other sentient beings already in existence, observing the unfolding cosmic drama. They watched with awe as the earth took shape, and rejoiced with triumphant shouts as God meticulously laid its very foundations. These aren't figures from some obscure, forgotten legend, nor are they merely whispers hidden away in long-lost, dusty manuscripts. Their existence is explicitly documented, prominently featured right within the pages of the Bible, particularly in the ancient book of Job. In a profound and pivotal moment within Job, God himself poses a question that could fundamentally alter our understanding of creation. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. This powerful passage unveils a truth that often goes unnoticed. These sons of God were already present, sentient, and aware, even before the physical world was fully completed. Crucially, they were not human. They predated Adam and stood entirely outside his lineage, yet they bore witness to the grand spectacle of creation itself. But the narrative only grows stranger. These mysterious beings weren't merely passive observers, content to watch from a celestial distance. Later biblical accounts reveal that some of them actually descended to earth, engaging with humanity in ways that appear, at first glance, utterly impossible for purely spiritual entities. In the book of Genesis, we find them taking human wives. Furthermore, in various ancient texts, both canonical and extra-canonical, they are explicitly linked to acts of rebellion against divine order. And then, quite abruptly, at a certain point in history, they seem to vanish without a trace. What truly became of them? Were they judged and banished to some forgotten realm? Or is their enigmatic influence subtly shaping the contours of our world even today? By the end of this discussion, your perception of the creation story may be irrevocably transformed. For if these sons of God indeed existed long before humanity, the critical questions emerge. Where are they now? And, perhaps even more profoundly, what are the implications of their existence for us in the present day? The Bible, in its vastness, is replete with profound mysteries and hidden truths that often escape the notice of most readers, despite being laid bare within its very text all along. Among these, the enigma of the sons of God stands out as one of the most compelling and enduring. The foundational account in Genesis vividly narrates the creation of Adam, detailing how God meticulously formed him from the dust of the ground and breathed the breath of life into his nostrils, thereby establishing him as the very first human being. Yet, the book of Job presents us with a strikingly different, indeed a prior, perspective. There, God himself declares, "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy." This crucial passage immediately begs a question that few seem to consider. If Adam was undeniably the first man, then precisely who were these sons of God, who not only existed but celebrated before his very creation? The Bible, it turns out, doesn't relegate them to a single, isolated mention. On the contrary, these enigmatic beings reappear at multiple pivotal moments throughout the sacred scriptures. In the book of Job, they are depicted standing directly before God's throne, sharing space with other celestial beings in the heavenly court. In Genesis, as we noted, they audaciously descend to earth and take human wives, leading to profound consequences. And in the apocalyptic visions of the book of Daniel, an angel speaks of powerful spiritual rulers, unseen principalities that exert profound influence over human kingdoms and historical events. Each time they emerge into the narrative, these sons of God appear to be intrinsically connected to something far grander and more cosmic than merely the human story. They are, in essence, interwoven into the very fabric and structure of creation itself. Yet, what makes their narrative even more profoundly puzzling is their curious disappearance. Following the cataclysmic flood of Noah, they simply vanish from explicit biblical mention. The specific term sons of God is no longer applied to them within the scriptural accounts. It's almost as though they were intentionally erased from recorded history. But why? What transpired to cause such a profound and sudden absence? To even begin to unravel this enigma, we must first delve into the fundamental question of their true identity. Throughout centuries of theological discourse and scholarly inquiry, their identity has been a subject of intense debate. While no single answer has emerged that universally satisfies every perspective, three prominent theories have been put forth to explain the nature of these mysterious beings. And what we are about to uncover concerning these theories might prove to be even more startling and thought-provoking than the initial mystery itself. For millennia, across various disciplines, theologians, historians, and biblical scholars have fervently debated the true identity of the sons of God. Were they celestial angels, divine messengers from God's court? Were they remnants of a lost, forgotten civilization predating humanity? Or perhaps were they something else, an entirely different category of being altogether? Among the myriad conjectures, three dominant theories stand out, each one, paradoxically, leading to an even deeper and more profound mystery. The first, and arguably the most widely accepted theory, posits that the sons of God were, in fact, angels. This perspective finds strong support in several key biblical passages, including the aforementioned book of Job, where these sons of God are depicted presenting themselves before God's heavenly throne, often in conjunction with other spiritual beings. If their presence before God implies a celestial dwelling, then it logically follows to infer an angelic nature. This interpretation also harmonizes with the broader biblical understanding that angels were created prior to humanity and were indeed present, witnessing and participating at the very dawn of creation. However, this angelic interpretation faces significant complications when confronted with the narrative in Genesis chapter 6. Here, these very same sons of God are described as descending to earth and taking human wives, prompting profoundly unsettling questions. How could purely spiritual beings physically manifest and interact with humans? And, even more perplexing, how could they possibly procreate and bear children with mortal women? Some scholars propose that these were not just any angels, but specifically fallen angels who actively chose to materialize and assume physical forms. This aligns remarkably well with narratives found in ancient Jewish texts, such as the Book of Enoch, which vividly details a group of angels, known as the Watchers, who deliberately descended to earth, intermarried with human women, and ultimately fathered a notorious race of giants, the Nephilim. But if these sons of God were indeed angels, then this act undeniably signifies a direct, egregious rebellion against their inherent divine nature and purpose, a profound betrayal of their celestial duties. Yet, what if the fundamental premise is flawed? What if they weren't angels in the traditional sense at all? A second compelling theory proposes that the sons of God were, in fact, pre-existent souls, spiritual entities that existed consciously and individually prior to their physical birth or embodiment. This intriguing concept draws support from biblical passages such as Jeremiah 1 verse 5, where God declares to the prophet, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." Many interpret this and similar verses as implying the pre-existence of souls, suggesting that individual spirits existed before being placed into human bodies. If this interpretation holds, then it raises a fascinating possibility. Could the sons of God have been a pre-Adamic race, a distinct order of beings residing solely in the spiritual realm before Adam was ever fashioned? Were they, perhaps, actively watching, patiently waiting, and indeed rejoicing with profound joy as the grand tapestry of creation unfolded? And if so, could some among them have defiantly refused to remain in their designated spiritual domain, choosing instead to prematurely descend and interfere before their appointed time? If such a transgression occurred, what catastrophic consequences might have ensued? These unsettling questions inevitably lead us to the third and arguably most controversial theory of all, This bold theory posits that the sons of God were integral members of a pre-Adamic civilization. It suggests that prior to Adam's creation, there existed an entirely different world, an earlier order of creation, which was catastrophically destroyed and wiped away even before the Genesis account of creation begins in its current form. Significantly, in the original Hebrew, the phrase describing the earth as formless and void, tohu wabo, in Genesis 1 verse 2 can also be legitimately translated as became formless and void, strongly implying that something had indeed already existed, but was subsequently devastated and ruined. Could the sons of God, then, have been surviving members or even leaders of that lost, primordial world? If so, what monumental event or transgression could have led to their spectacular downfall? The book of Isaiah, with its vivid description of Lucifer's fall from heaven, speaks of a colossal celestial rebellion that some scholars believe may have been so devastating as to leave the pre-Adamic world in utter ruins. This, they argue, hints at a cosmic war between powerful spiritual beings, a conflict that culminated in a divine judgment, effectively erasing a complex civilization that thrived before Adam was ever brought into existence. If this theory holds true, then the sons of God were far more than mere observers of creation. They were, in essence, the very remnants of a vanished, ancient world. And if so, what became of them? Were they all utterly destroyed in that cataclysmic judgment, or did some manage to survive and endure? Each of these compelling theories, while offering potential answers, invariably opens the door to even deeper, more profound theological and philosophical questions. Yet, one truth remains unequivocally certain. These beings did not merely fade into oblivion. They played a significant, active role in primordial history, present at the very genesis of creation. At some pivotal juncture, however, something monumental occurred that irrevocably altered their destiny and the trajectory of the world. For after a specific, defining moment in biblical history, they appeared to vanish, or at least that is the prevailing narrative we are often led to believe. But did they truly disappear into nothingness, or did some of them, perhaps, actively rebel and were subsequently cast down into profound darkness? This latter possibility gains weight when we consider that the next time they resurface in Scripture, it is not as divine beings joyously celebrating creation, but rather as undeniably fallen entities. This declarative statement marks an unmistakable turning point in cosmic governance. The beings who once held dominion and ruled over creation were unequivocally stripped of their charge. That immense responsibility and authority were now unequivocally bestowed upon humans. But if these rebellious sons of God truly lost their dominion and celestial standing, what precisely was their ultimate fate? The Bible strongly suggests that some of them faced swift and immediate divine judgment. As previously noted, the Epistle of Jude describes angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, whom God has reserved in chains of everlasting darkness for the judgment of the great day. Likewise, Peter echoes this chilling account, stating that some angels sinned and were consequently cast into Tartarus, a profound and terrible abyss of imprisonment, held in relentless chains until the appointed end of time. But does this imply that all of them were permanently removed and contained? Not necessarily. For even though they no longer openly walk the earth in visible, physical form, the Bible consistently describes the continued existence of unseen rulers, malevolent spiritual authorities, and dark powers actively at work in the world. The Apostle Paul, in Ephesians 6 verse 12, powerfully articulates this reality, declaring that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. These formidable beings, though unseen, are undeniably still active, still operating from the shadows, relentlessly pursuing their agendas. However, a critical distinction is made. They are no longer referred to by the exalted title sons of God. they lost that sacred designation. And here, the narrative takes an even more astonishing and transformative turn. Remarkably, the very title that once exclusively belonged to these powerful celestial beings is later, in the New Testament, bestowed upon an entirely different group. The Apostle Paul emphatically declares that those who follow God through faith are now, by divine adoption, called the children of God. Romans 8 verse 14. This is far more than a mere poetic phrase or a symbolic gesture. It is a foundational declaration of our new identity in Christ. The exalted title that once characterized powerful celestial beings, those who witnessed the very creation of the world and held primordial dominion over the earth, now, by divine grace, belongs to us. This means we are not simply beings of flesh and blood, destined merely to live and die without any transcendent purpose. We have been called into something immeasurably greater, a cosmic destiny. But the pressing question remains: have we truly stepped into that sacred calling and embraced its profound implications? Because the Bible makes it unequivocally clear, the spiritual war that commenced before Adam's creation has, in fact, never ceased. The malevolent forces that once ruled, the fallen ones who catastrophically lost their esteemed place, are still very much out there. They no longer openly walk among humanity as they once did, nor do they possess direct dominion over creation. Yet, they are tirelessly influencing, subtly deceiving, and relentlessly fighting to reclaim what they believe was unjustly taken from them. And if we are indeed the ones who have assumed their vacated position, then we are, without doubt, the primary targets of their ongoing spiritual warfare. Considering that the sons of God once held dominion over creation, that some among them defiantly rebelled and faced divine judgment, and that their ancient title and authority were subsequently stripped away and graciously bestowed upon humanity, the paramount question we must now confront is: what does this profound cosmic shift truly signify for us in the present day? The Bible, after all, is not merely a collection of ancient stories detailing a distant past. It is a living revelation that unveils eternal patterns and profound truths, inherently shaping our understanding of the present. This profound mystery, therefore, extends far beyond mere intellectual curiosity about ancient celestial beings. It speaks directly to the very core of who we are, and crucially, what we were inherently destined to become. In the book of Romans, the Apostle Paul makes a truly radical and transformative statement. He declares that those who are led by the Spirit of God are the children of God. Romans 8 verse 14. This is far more than a mere poetic phrase or a symbolic gesture. It is a foundational declaration of our new identity in Christ. The exalted title that once characterized powerful celestial beings, those who witnessed the very creation of the world and held primordial dominion over the earth, now, by divine grace, belongs to us. This means we are not simply beings of flesh and blood, destined merely to live and die without any transcendent purpose. We have been called into something immeasurably greater, a cosmic destiny. But the pressing question remains: have we truly stepped into that sacred calling and embraced its profound implications? Because the Bible makes it unequivocally clear, the spiritual war that commenced before Adam's creation has, in fact, never ceased. The malevolent forces that once ruled, the fallen ones who catastrophically lost their esteemed place, are still very much out there. If the sons of God were indeed present at the dawn of creation, exuberantly rejoicing as the cosmos took shape, then the profound question arises: what cataclysmic event or grave transgression led some among them to fall so far from their exalted state? The Bible offers us tantalizing glimpses of their rebellion, yet the intricate details surrounding this celestial revolt remain largely shrouded in profound mystery. In Genesis chapter 6, we encounter a passage that, on the surface, appears almost impossibly perplexing. The sons of God are described as descending to earth, taking human wives, and fathering children. If these entities were truly celestial and spiritual by nature, How could such a physical manifestation and interaction occur? How could they bridge the divide into the physical realm? And more critically, what compelled them to undertake such an audacious and forbidden act? Genesis 6 further informs us that these unions produced the Nephilim, a legendary race of mighty beings described as the heroes of old, men of renown. Many scholars believe these Nephilim were indeed physical giants, hybrid offspring resulting from this unnatural fusion, whose very existence and actions corrupted the world so profoundly and severely that God himself was compelled to intervene decisively. But amidst this cataclysmic judgment, what became of the rebellious sons of God themselves? The New Testament offers us significant clues regarding their fate. The Epistle of Jude, for instance, explicitly describes a group of angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, and whom God has kept in chains of everlasting darkness for the judgment of the great day. Similarly, the Apostle Peter makes a parallel statement, affirming that God did not spare angels when they sinned, but sent them to hell, putting them in chains of darkness to be held for judgment, specifically mentioning their casting into Tartarus, a deep abyss of torment, held in chains until the eschatological end of time. Thus, these fallen celestial beings were not merely removed or annihilated. They were explicitly imprisoned, locked away from active participation in creation itself, awaiting a final reckoning. However, the narrative becomes even more unsettling when we consider that the Bible also vividly describes another profound celestial rebellion, distinct yet potentially connected, one famously led by a powerful being who audaciously sought to exalt himself above God's own throne and authority. The book of Isaiah dramatically recounts the story of Lucifer's precipitous fall, how he was cast down from heaven, metaphorically thrown to the earth, and stripped of his former celestial glory and power. Many theologians believe this monumental event is intrinsically linked to the fall of the sons of God, positing that Lucifer's rebellion may have played a pivotal, catalytic role in compelling some of these beings to defy their Creator and abandon their divine mandate. Yet, here lies the most crucial and sobering aspect of this entire mystery. Even though some of these fallen sons of God were indeed bound in chains and imprisoned, the Bible unequivocally informs us that spiritual rulers, principalities, and powers of darkness continue to actively exist and exert influence in our world today. This implies that certain entities among them are still very much out there, active and at large. They may have forfeited their original authority and lost their exalted title, but their insidious influence has certainly not dissipated. They are still subtly, yet powerfully, shaping the course of the world and vehemently resisting God's overarching divine plan for humanity. And if their primordial dominion and authority were indeed stripped away from them, then the paramount question becomes, to whom was this immense responsibility and power subsequently transferred? For after the cataclysmic global flood, something fundamentally and irrevocably changed. The sons of God, who were once the designated rulers and held primordial dominion over creation, are no longer openly depicted in the biblical narrative. They weren't simply erased from existence. Rather, they were decisively replaced. Throughout a significant portion of early biblical history, the sons of God manifest as powerful, enigmatic figures. They are profoundly present even before the act of creation, celebrating with exuberance as the world takes its initial form. They audaciously descend to earth, directly interacting with humanity, and, crucially, at a certain juncture, some among them openly rebelled. And then, quite abruptly, they vanish from the foreground of the narrative. Following the Great Deluge, the specific designation sons of God is no longer applied to them within the Scriptures. It truly is as if they were deliberately expunged from recorded history. But why? What profound, fundamental shift occurred? Before the flood, these sons of God possessed a clear and prominent role. They were visibly present, actively engaged, and exerted tangible influence upon the world. However, after their grievous rebellion, And once the global flood had swept away the pervasive corruption they had introduced, their exalted position and dominion within creation were systematically stripped away. Indeed, God initiated a momentous shift in authority. In Genesis 9, subsequent to the flood, God issues a new, profound command to humanity. He instructs them to be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it. They no longer openly walk among humanity as they once did, nor do they possess direct dominion over creation. Yet, they are tirelessly influencing, subtly deceiving, and relentlessly fighting to reclaim what they believe was unjustly taken from them. And if we are indeed the ones who have assumed their vacated position, then we are, without doubt, the primary targets of their ongoing spiritual warfare. The book of Ephesians unequivocally states that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Ephesians 6 verse 12. This powerful declaration means that the fundamental, existential battle is not primarily political, financial, or even merely a conflict between nations or human leaders. The real war is profoundly spiritual, a cosmic struggle that has been fiercely raging since long before humanity ever graced the stage of existence. But here is arguably the most crucial and awe-inspiring truth. The Bible reveals that creation itself, with profound anticipation, is groaning and waiting eagerly for the revealing of the sons of God. Romans 8 verse 19. This means that not only is the natural world profoundly affected, but the entire unseen spiritual realm is not merely observing passively. They are actively, intensely waiting for us to step into our true identity. The fallen ones, those ancient adversaries, harbor a profound and existential fear of what will transpire if we, the true inheritors, fully step into our rightful role. They lost their divine authority. They forfeited their place in creation. And if we truly embrace who we are in Christ, they know with chilling certainty that their time of influence and dominion is rapidly running out. Yet, tragically, most people journey through their entire lives without ever realizing the magnificent destiny they were meant to fulfill. They walk through existence largely unaware of the profound spiritual reality that has been hidden in plain sight all along, a reality that dictates so much of what they experience. So the burning question facing us is not merely an academic inquiry into the past. The real question is this: have we genuinely embraced our divine identity, or are we still living as if we are powerless, ignorant of the authority bestowed upon us? Because the undeniable truth is, we were never destined to be passive observers in this cosmic drama. We were called to be something immeasurably greater, and the time has unequivocally come for us to awaken to this profound reality. If the sons of God indeed once held primordial rule before humanity's advent, if some among them defiantly rebelled and consequently faced divine judgment, and if their esteemed place in creation was ultimately stripped away and graciously conferred upon us, then there remains one final, critical question we must consider. Are there still some among these original sons of God who remain steadfast and faithful to God? The Bible consistently offers us tantalizing glimpses into a spiritual reality that extends far beyond our limited physical perception. It speaks expansively of mighty angelic warriors, of swift divine messengers, and of benevolent spiritual rulers and principalities that subtly influence the world and its affairs in ways we can barely begin to comprehend. It recounts tales of epic battles waged in the heavens, of vast cosmic wars that continually unfold beyond the scope of our mortal sight. And if the fallen ones are still actively out there, tirelessly resisting God's plan, then what of those who never turned away from their Creator, those who remained utterly loyal and true? The book of Daniel provides a remarkable illustration of this unseen conflict, describing a moment when an angel, sent with a vital message, was supernaturally blocked for 21 days by a powerful spiritual ruler, identified as the Prince of Persia, until Michael, the archangel, intervened to assist him. Daniel 10 verse 13. This astonishing account reveals something incredible. The cosmic battle for good and evil is not confined merely to earthly struggles. It is a conflict of far greater, celestial scope. There are malevolent forces that persist in resisting divine will, relentlessly seeking to control, manipulate, and deceive humanity. But, conversely, there are also steadfast angelic beings who still stand faithfully with God, actively fighting on His side in this ongoing spiritual war. And if the Bible's revelations are indeed accurate, if we are truly the ones who have inherited the sacred mantle of authority that was once theirs, then where does that profound truth leave us? Have we genuinely stepped into our divinely appointed role, or are we still passively searching for our place in a world that desperately needs our awakening? The Scriptures emphatically declare that all of creation is waiting with eager expectation for the revealing of the sons of God. This means they are waiting for us. So, the ultimate, piercing question is this: are we still living as if we are powerless, passively walking through life utterly unaware of the immense spiritual authority that has been divinely placed upon us? Or are we finally ready to embrace the magnificent destiny we were always meant to fulfill? Because whether we consciously realize it or not, the cosmic war never truly ended, and now, more than ever, it is unequivocally our turn to choose which side we stand on. So what are your thoughts? Who do you believe these enigmatic sons of God truly were? Do you perceive their ancient influence as still subtly, yet powerfully, shaping the trajectory of our world today? And, perhaps most profoundly, have we, as humanity, genuinely embraced our crucial role within God's magnificent divine plan? Let's engage in this vital discussion in the comments section below. Share your insights, voice your questions, and contribute to the conversation. For this is not merely an intriguing historical narrative. This is the profound spiritual reality that encompasses and defines the very world we are all living in. And if this presentation has challenged what you previously thought you knew, if it has prompted you to rethink long-held beliefs or traditions, then please consider sharing it with someone else, someone who might profoundly benefit from seeing this perspective. Be sure to subscribe for more deep, thought-provoking biblical discussions, because the truth, in its timeless essence, has always been there, patiently awaiting for us to diligently seek and uncover it.